Have you ever had a close friend cross a line in your relationship? If so, what happened? She kept acquiring more cats. She couldn't afford to spay neuter them, so they bred, and instead of finding them homes kept them all while she continued to buy more and more cats. She was living in the basement of a small townhouse. The tiny space was about the size of 3 dorm rooms. In this space she had 1 dog, a bird, and 18 cats. She couldn't afford to feed them all. I tried to help her and get her food for the cats, but she just used my help to justify getting more cats. I made her promise to not get any more cats until all of her was spayed and neutered. She said yes, then bought 2 grey kittens. I just couldn't be friends with an animal hoarder. Well, after a few months I realized this dude has nothing positive to say about anything other than himself, ever. He crossed the line though when he yelled at my girlfriend about interrupting while the men are talking, but burned that bridge in about 12 minutes after we got home. When I was 12 and my brother was 10, I had over one of my only friends at the time. Moved a town over, new school, I was awkward. He liked to throw knives into trees. Odd thing to let a 12-year-old do, but hey, boys are weird and we liked ninjas. On day he threw a knife into a wall in my house. Not that big of a deal to 12-year-old me, but it happened to be a foot away from my brother's head. He knew what he did, thought it would be funny, and said he knew it would miss. I lost my crap. I literally threw him out of my house and didn't speak to him for years. Respect for being protective of your little bro. I was living with my cousin while in college. Summer break came in and I was leaving for 2 months for classes abroad. My cousin stayed at our apartment and asked if his friend could crash in my room. No biggie, as long as he's clean and does not make a mess. Came back 2 months later. I found my sheets and pillow crispy and covered in CM. Said my frick yes and go to heck. Bought new sheets and pillow and started looking for a new apartment the next day. Moved out the next month. Yo, that's frickin' nasty, man. She flat out told me, I just get bored of people, so I just quit talking to them and find new people. Take a wild guess at how that ended for me. A close friend from college days asked if he could live with us for a few days while looking for employment in the area. Instead of a job search, he spent his days hanging around the house and taking advantage of our hospitality. He crossed the line when I came home early from work one day and caught him with his hands in my SO's bedroom drawers, looking for things to steal. That was it, out he went, then and there. Gross. I work as a volunteer youth leader. Last year found out my best friend, who was also a youth leader, was a sociopathic pervert pest. Gender-based harassment and potentially assaulted nearly 30 girls, a fair few being kids we worked with. He chose his targets well, knowing who he could keep quiet and who couldn't, then manipulated them into silence. It only took one person coming out for the church we worked for to investigate him and everything came to light. Currently waiting for the police to make a move, and hopefully he rots in prison. I hope those girls are going to be okay. He tried to get my GF at the time to break up with me so he could date her. Luckily she saw what he was doing. He and I were not friends for long after that. I was pretty torn up by that betrayal. Basically, I had a friend throughout high school. Seemed like a pretty chill guy. A bit of a dong, but so was I, so I just went with it. Between my junior and senior years though, I went through some pretty major lifestyle changes, namely not being an butthole to everyone I met. He however did not. The thing that really ended that friendship for me though was when he faked being suicidal and abusing drugs in an attempt to get one of our mutual friends, now my girlfriend, to date him. It was honestly one of the cruelest things I've seen a person do in an attempt to get with a girl. Somehow though that wasn't enough, and he still borderline stalks her to this day. Creepy as heck, and I wish I had drawn the line a little sooner. Live and learn, I guess. Sounds more like a goose tbh. Those suckers know no bounds. Told me to make a false police report against my ex to get custody and then acted like I was the weird one when I said there was no way in heck I'd do that. Lost all respect for her after that. I am fresh out of family court, where I successfully got sole custody of my child. I am the father. Things have gotten easier for dads in disputed custody cases, but the threat of false accusation is always there. It's much more common than you think. So thanks for not going that route. Had a friend who would occasionally make comments that would make me uncomfortable regarding my appearance and my smile and things. Then increasingly over time, with alcohol and weed involved, he would start making obscene comments. He would purposefully get me high and when I was almost sleeping say things like, "Oh no, don't fall asleep. Why don't we just tug each other off?" I kind of found it hard to believe because he had never mentioned being gay or anything like that, although he made a lot of gay jokes. I put that and the few incidents that followed down to him just being drunk. Then one night he brought round poppers that he'd apparently found and just came right out and asked me to suck him off when we were drunk. I've not been sure what to do about it since. This was months ago now, but I'm still not sure if I could ever be friends with the dude and have a drink with him again. This is not a safe person to drink or get high with. There sounds like a very real chance he would physically shame you if given another opportunity. Please be safe. I was dating a guy for about a month. Told my best friend all about him and how much I liked him. My friend and I had tickets to a music festival and the guy decided last minute he was going to come also because he liked some of the bands that were there. Went to the festival, had a great time and got an Uber back to an Airbnb we had rented for the weekend. Walked in. Guy I was dating went to the room we were sleeping in to lay down. I go into the kitchen to get water. Hear guy yelling my name. Walking on my best friend on top of guy straddling him. Uncomfortable confrontation ensues. I don't ever comment on anything ever, so this is new for me. For that reason, I gave you the most condensed version I could while trying to have the story still make sense. This happened a year ago. My friend and I had been friends for 9 years. There were a lot of comments about the drinking, and I agree it is not her main issue and all the drinking does is make her issues worse. My immediate reaction after I walked in the room because the guy was calling my name, asking for me to come help him, when I saw her on top of him was shock and I was instantly furious with the two of them. Also, they both had clothes on. I said something along the lines of "I don't know what the frick is going on but I am not okay with this, and I'm not sure how either of you think it is okay either." She immediately got off of him, mumbled "I'm sorry" and retreated to her room and passed out. I started packing my stuff and said I was leaving because at that point I was so angry I was done with both of them. Guy talked to me for almost an hour afterwards, confused why I was mad at him, and eventually when I calmed down realized he didn't do anything wrong. She came into his room unsolicited and called for me to come back the moment it got out of hand. I didn't talk to her for months afterwards. She contacted me and asked why I was being distant. I explained what happened. She didn't remember it or so she claimed. It's taken a long time but we are still friends. I've created more distance between us. We don't hang out as much, and I know now she is someone I can't fully trust. As for me and the guy, we have been dating now for 10 months. I had one very close friend who was never exactly a laid-back guy, because he was very ambitious. I think he saw himself destined for greater things, which was never a problem. I mean, I am an Asperger's and I know that I am a bit different and strange sometimes as well. So, we went through thick and thin together and helped each other through rough times. But then he decided to become a banker and he became increasingly distanced. Then, he became an employee of the German central bank and that was when things really went downhill. I drove a couple of hundreds of kilometers on his birthday, hoping for a fun time. It was not. He had a party and I felt completely out of place. From his old friends only 2 were invited anyway and we rest were his new fancy banker friends. And then we caught him making apologies to them for us, because we came in casual clothing, not in suits that cost half of a month's salary. Because we were laid back and were making jokes. Because we told stories about our former adventures. He explained to them that he grew out of that and that he grew up. While we apparently would still need time to find our way, he felt embarrassed because of us. Apparently a nurse and a geologist were beneath his dignity. Next time we met he acted like nothing happened and was back to his old self. But after a quite relaxed time, he became a bit nervous and tried to get rid of us with all kinds of excuses. This was explained when one of his banker friends joined the scene. Apparently they wanted to go out for an evening in town, but we were not good enough anymore to stay around. So I've directly asked him if he felt embarrassed for us. He looked away and said nothing, and that was the end of our friendship. Classists are weird. Got him a job in my company so he could move to the city his girlfriend is. Then he started going after my position. Friendship over. Don't work with friends. Had a close friend who was in a multi-year relationship with a great guy. He treated her like gold. Out of nowhere she goes on a date with another guy. She tried to explain it as just keeping my options open and as no big deal and something I shouldn't share with him. It really changed how I saw her. Jeopardizing her relationship was bad enough, and now you're telling me about it and telling me keep it a secret? I was happy that she transferred to another department and we quickly lost contact. They are still together and got married, but I have no idea what their relationship is like. After her transfer we quickly stopped talking. My best friend for 6+ years was having an affair with my then girlfriend behind my back. I then forgave him under the condition he'd seek psychiatric help. I'm depressed was his excuse and he claimed he made an appointment. He never did and instead invested money into Bitcoin. I basically told him frick off then and there and he sent me all the messages of my ex-girlfriend talking crap and playing me for a fool behind my back. Left me with severe self-confidence issues, but I'm slowly recovering and glad he's gone. I'm sorry this happened to you, but the Bitcoin part cracked me up. It wouldn't be Reddit without Bitcoin being involved. My friend from high school, later being my co-worker, decided to get with my wife's little sister. He was 21 and she was 16. Parents didn't seem to mind BTW. He came up with lies that I was talking about their mom at work and that I was cheating on my wife with a co-worker. Needless to say they are still together and I don't talk to him at all anymore. But it's incredibly awkward when he's around. Wow, didn't think I would have got so much attention. You should pee in his shampoo. Probably when he and my GF at the time came home after going out for the evening, only to find jizz stains on her dress when I was helping her lay down in bed to get over her drunkenness. I had a gay friend grab my junk at a wedding and start saying physically suggestive things to me and not in a non-serious way. Grabbed my wrist and started licking it. Dude wanted to bang me hard. I haven't talked to him since. I'm straight and while I'll take it as a compliment, that crossed so many lines. That's assault, bro. I just got in a huge fight with my girlfriend at the time. She goes to the bar and sees my friend. He gets her ass-faced drunk and convinced her it was a good idea to walk down to my apartment and confess her love to me with all her friends around while she could barely form coherent sentences. It was really pathetic and embarrassing for her. I felt so horrible for her. I never spoke to him again. We're not close friends anymore, or even much of friends. I just have trouble cutting ties to someone I've known for 16 years. He was like a brother. We both ran away from home as teens and called each other first. When his parents kicked him out, my family took him in. I was his POA while he was deployed. He stood with me when I got married. Then one night, when we were drinking together while my husband was at basic training, beach bonfire trip, very common with various people, he tried to sleep with me and let it be known that he'd always wanted more and asked for more when I said no. Yeah, kinda killed the friendship. And eventually he got married and his wife dislikes me. And my ex-husband will punch him if he ever sees him again. On a side note, seems you still have a good relationship with your ex-husband. In college, I, female, was friends with a guy who could be straight out of Anisagawais. He was very unsuccessful with women because of a lack of social skills and no self-awareness. I know that this really bothered him and I would try to help him out, give him advice, etc. He never actually took my advice and kept repeating the same mistakes, which got progressively more annoying, but there were times that a date would stand him up, which is a really terrible thing to do, or girls would be mean to him on dating apps. So I really did feel bad and try my best to help. I know he was romantically interested in me, but I didn't have those feelings for him. Eventually, because he was bitter about my comparative success in the romance department, he made some really cruel and inappropriate personal attacks over text. That's where I drew the line. I told him that was hurtful and inappropriate and a day later, I blocked him. I haven't talked to him since. He seems really selfish and a lot of people saw that in him. I think that's the worst quality to have in a friend and also in yourself. I had a friend who actually just a few days ago suggested I ditch getting my wife from work to go get her some Buffalo Wild Wings. She has been doing things like this for a bit of time now, but never so crazy as then. She blew up my phone and was acting so desperate over fricking wings. I just decided to drop her. My best friend of almost 10 years, who was also my roommate, was arrested last week with over 100 pictures of child pee. He's dead to me and doesn't understand why. Crap, one of the shortest stories here, but by far the wildest ride. I was physically shammered in high school by a guy in our circle of friends. So when I moved after graduation, I ghosted because I had a toxic home life and had no emotional mental support. Flash forward 8 years later, after leaving an abusive relationship, I made my first close friend in a long time. I felt like I was finally catching up with my peers, partying and going out and all. She grew up in this city, so she had a lot of friends from growing up. We were tight, but I always had this feeling she looked down on me. She went too far, and after confronting her she said things like, "You're only my friend because I made you popular." I admit, I kind of laughed at that. I hate attention. The line she crossed is, after knowing my past completely, she said, "This is why you have no friends from high school." That kind of broke me, and I don't think she ever realized how much that hurt me. I did once. I kissed my best friend who was married to my other friend. It was a mess that ended my friendship with almost every one of my friends at the time, and I regret ever doing it. 0/10 would not recommend. I once bit my friend's shoulder while drunk. I don't know. I thought I was a zombie or some crap. Anyways, I really chomped down on that shoulder, and he turned and punched me square in the face. I deserved it though, and we are still great friends to this day. They sent obscene texts to my crush and told everyone I was a W and that I was easy. Turns out my close friend was a jealous, insecure B. I'm 20 now and still a virgin. Frick you, Danielle. Really close friend in high school. Found out he was talking crap behind my back and about stuff I had told him in confidence and was now using that against me. I just stopped talking to him. You made the right move. Frick him. 6 years ago he confessed he actually liked me for all these years drunk at a bar just a few feet away from my boyfriend. I just laughed and said he was drunk, then ignored it. We stopped being friends a year later. She accused me of sleeping with her husband and giving him herpes, who in turn gave them to her. Then told people including my husband this and tried to tell people my husband isn't the father of my child. I have done a lot of crappy things admittedly, but I would never sleep with her husband and jokes on her. I don't have herpes, neither does her now ex-husband, and my child looks just like my husband. So now she is alone with herpes. Needless to say, I'm still mad. My best friend went no contact because of her abusive boyfriend. A week later I found her at midnight in front of my house in tears after she'd been to the police to report him, and we're friends again. I'm a happily married gay woman. Had one of my closest female friends try to express interest in me and cross some physical boundaries. She knows my wife and what a great person she is. It was super upsetting. Friendship ruined, along with some trust in my relationship. It's also worth noting that this kind of crap happens all the time because straight girls like to try and take tourist expeditions with their lesbian friends. Not sure if this falls under that, but my best childhood friend did something pretty bad to someone else in high school, and that led to me blowing up my circle of friends. There was a girl. She came from a broken, abusive, everything is fine on the surface rich family. She had some problems with anorexia, depression and PTSD. She had also been debauched by an ex-boyfriend, who is not otherwise part of this story. So, this girl made a new friend in high school. We shall call this friend Pose, for piece of crap. Pose was a good friend of my best friend. I'd hung out with him a few times, but we were just a friend of a friend to each other. The girl came to trust Pose, and eventually she told him all her dark secrets and pains and regrets. Pose pretended to offer her support, then turned around and told his friends all her secrets because he enjoyed gossiping and being the center of attention. He also told them not to let it get back to her, because then she would stop telling him secrets. One of the people he told was my best friend, and he told me, and that wasn't right. I told the girl everything I knew. Me, some random guy she had met only once before, knowing intimate details about her horrible family life, the stuff about her ex, her eating disorder, everything. She was obviously horrified and felt very betrayed by Pose. So she confronted him very loudly and publicly. The most drama I've ever heard of in real life. A lot of people already knew her secrets, so I guess she felt she didn't have much to lose. Anyway, Pose went into damage control mode and tried to spin it as me manipulating the girl to get into her pants, and only making her think I knew all those things. Some people believed him, some believed her. My best friend felt that I had betrayed him and sided with Pose. This also made it hard to get along when we met up with the same circle of friends. So the end result was my circle of friends somewhat breaking up in the last semester of high school. I miss my, formerly, best friend for a while. I have never found anyone else WTH a sense of humor so similar to mine. But ultimately, I couldn't have not told the girl what was happening, and the fact that my friend treated it as just juicy gossip. I guess he wasn't a very good person. I'm not perfect myself, and I certainly regret the price I had to pay for that story. But, I did the right thing. If I could go back, I wouldn't change that. I wouldn't be me if I had stood by and let that continue. My friend who has large boobs, mine are just barely D's but hers were bigger, grabbed my then boyfriend's head, yelled, "Look at my boobs, you know you want to," and rubbed his face into her cleavage. She was sober. She just had a self-esteem issue that made her need every guy in the room to want to frick her more than the other girls. She also knew that I was a bit insecure when it came to her because they'd slept together before he and I dated. And I wondered if my then boyfriend wanted her more than he wanted me cause she'd been the one to drop him. Several months later she would text him things to initiate dirty texts. Then got him to break up with me so they could sleep together cause she was single and wanted to get laid and he happened to be around. A crappy thing of her to do, but you probably also don't want a man who'll drop you at the drop of a hat because a pair of boobs came beckoning for a one-night stand. In high school I didn't have a lot of close friends, except for my one friend Matt. Matt and I liked to smoke weed together, go camping, hiking, talk about science and politics. He was a really cool and smart dude, but he eventually turned down the path of opiates. He started with opium tea, which I admit I did try, but that was all. He soon moved to pills, C, and eventually H. He would always offer me these drugs or ask me to come with him to pick them up so he was less likely to get robbed, I guess. Eventually I just cut ties with him. I did not really say why. I just started hanging out with other people because I was scared to be around that crap and to ruin my life. R.I.P. You did right. I had some mental health issues in high school. I confided this in a friend because I was having a real rough time. She used it against me a lot. Whenever I didn't go along with her bulls, she would make me by threatening to tell people that I cut myself. The line was finally crossed when she physically grabbed me by the shoulders, violently shook me, and repeatedly screamed, "You need me." Crap was weird. When I started talking to him, my female friends told me that I should avoid him because he is a creep. Stupidly, I ignored their warnings. We were Skyping once and he randomly started asking me about my kinks. The conversation went in the expected direction from there. Ended up in a short-lived and toxic relationship with him, during which I ended up losing a lot of those friends who were just trying to help me in the first place. Nowadays he has 3 physical shaming allegations against him and a pregnant white trash GF who thinks I'm a threat and tells me that she's going to claw me. Dodge a bullet there, I guess. Sounds like you got shot and managed to crawl away, honestly. He constantly acted as if his advice were the word of God and I had to do what he said to get ahead in life. Hanging out with him usually involved being lectured and it was as if I had a third parent. Giving someone advice is welcome, but more or less trying to force someone to do what you think is best for them isn't. I cut contact with him due to something unrelated, but it was the final straw that broke the camel's back. In general, this usually happens when you're friends with someone for a long time and there's a level of familiarity between you both. The problem is, some people end up crossing the line by the advice they attempt to give. He slapped my butt at a crowded mall and laughed when he noticed people were staring. He couldn't understand why I was angry at him. It wasn't the only incident, but it was the last straw. I dropped him as a friend. He told me that he was in love with me, and he thought I had a right to know so I could make the decision of if I was comfortable still being his friend. 3 years together this summer. Love of my life. I don't recommend this as a strategy, it just happened to work out for us. I would recommend this strategy. This is really the best way to go about having feelings for someone. Kudos to his approach. Make the decision of if I was comfortable still. A friend came over and I mentioned how little time my fiance was spending with me and that it was affecting our relationship. I wasn't feeling well and wanted to go to bed early and be alone, so I told her that and went to bed. At 2 in the morning, I realized my fiance never came home and wasn't in bed. Lo and behold, she had waited for him outside our place and took it upon herself to pull him aside and talk to him for hours about our relationship and how I was feeling, and told him that I had asked her to do this. He was bewildered but didn't know what to do or what the truth was, so he just stayed there until he could get away from her. Anyway, when he finally comes in and tells me, I'm livid. I'm thinking, I tell you in passing that I don't spend enough time with him, so you blockade him from getting to me and literally leech all of that time for attention? We aren't friends anymore. Definitely crossed the line. Yek, what a busybody. He told me Pepsi was crap, so I said his Arizona tea was crap. Very, very dark times indeed. Actually, I think I'm gonna tell him his new shoes are lame and see what he comes up with in a bit. Jokes aside, the boundary a friend crossed was when she was dating someone and I woke up one morning, Central Time. She lived in the UK, so it was like 2 PM for her, to a bunch of lewd photos and nude photos of her on Discord. I was in awe at first because I'm a pervy boy, but after a few seconds I came to my senses. I thought to myself, what the frick, and started asking her as to why she did it. She had no particular reason other than she thought it would be fun to do it behind her boyfriend's back, which quite frankly upset me greatly as I had a crush on her. I talked to her for hours after that, but she was keen on not apologizing, so I screenshot our chat, emailed her boyfriend and let him deal with her in person. I refused to talk to her after that, even despite her efforts to make a couple accounts to annoy me. Heck, she even posted my private Discord, Skype and Steam names on 4chan after the whole ordeal, if that gives you any extra perspective of the kind of person she really was. I screenshot our text conversation below the lewd photos she sent me, and emailed the messages to her boyfriend, not the photos. She sounds like a quality human being. I was in an abusive relationship for 2 years, and in the meantime I had a strange friendship with a guy who knew my boyfriend at the time. We'll call him Charlie. Charlie would drive to my house and pick me up and we'd go to the park or something. My abusive boyfriend at the time was probably screwing around with some other girl at the time, so he ghosted sometimes and so did I. Charlie had a girlfriend too, and he would even take me to pick her up too. Obviously, that's weird, but she didn't even seem to mind. I didn't have feelings for Charlie, and to this day, I'm unsure he had feelings for me. Why do I say that? Because Charlie would take me to church just so I could be with my now fiance. Charlie also would take me to the park with my now fiance. If he liked me, why would he do that? We were super close friends. He would pick me up every day and we would drive and talk. He even bought me a stuffed horse I wanted. He'd buy us pizza and we'd spend all sorts of time together. I even remember one night my depression was getting the better of me and I just cried on his shoulder while he pet me. He was very nice, but a bit odd too. He would always try to steal my phone and had the intention of not returning it. When I wasn't available to go places with him, he would get extremely clingy and talk down on me about my abusive boyfriend. The line he crossed was when he came into my house and started chasing me around the kitchen, threatening to kidnap me. I got the idea that he wasn't playing even though we were both smiling. I was extremely uncomfortable. My mom heard him say he was going to kidnap me and carry me out of the house. Mom went mama bear on him and kicked him out of the house. I haven't spoken to him since. TDLR. Good friendship during an abusive relationship until he very seriously threatens to kidnap me. Yeah, I had a close friend who basically ran off with my then girlfriend. A lot of these friends stuck with her and I never saw any of them again really. While close might be pushing it, someone I talked to quite a bit went on a drunken sectarian tirade complaining about how slavery should be reinstated. I no longer talk to them. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.